of January the 12th. There's an agenda. Does anybody have anything to add or delete from the agenda? Seeing nobody coming up, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Bork, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor, signify by raising your hand or aye. Contrary-minded, carried. Anybody have any conflict of interest to declare? And if something comes up during the meeting, you can always declare it at the time. So we've had one regret from Councillor Guy Surratt. Next item we have is a presentation. We have Carolyn Sloan, and it's regarding inclusion Clare. And Carolyn, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Bonsoir et bonne année tout le monde. My name is Carolyn Sloan. I am the Executive Director of an organization called Inclusion Clare, which was formerly called, you probably recognize L'Atelier de Clare or Maison Jérôme. So recently we've become rebranded ourselves as Inclusion Clare. And I'm going to speak in English, but je comprends bien le français. Alors, si vous avez des questions en français, tu peux les demander si tu veux en français. All right, so this is our new brand. Actually, we haven't even approved all the logo colors yet, but I had to put something on here. So Inclusion Clare. The reason that I'm coming to you tonight is a while back, I guess quite some time back, Laurie's been trying to schedule me in. I understand that the municipality has been exploring ideas around housing for people with disabilities. Our organization has over 40 years of experience providing housing and programming for people, adults with disabilities. So I wanted to reach out to you and just see, I guess, first of all, just offer our assistance, offer to share resources, knowledge, whatever you would need. We're well connected with provincial funders. And I would like to build more connections between our two regions. So this is just totally no pressure, but if you want to connect with us in any way, this is just extending that to you. So I guess just to tell you, I know your time is precious, but just to tell you a little bit about who we are, where we've come from. I won't read all of this. Laurie can share this with you, but she has my presentation. But essentially, we started out like a lot of programs like ours with parents wanting something for their children, some kind of program and housing opportunities. So we started out kind of in the basement of Maison Coucher du Soleil with Dr. Dugas, and he had a few folks. And then we've grown now to an organization that serves over 30 people. And so we've come quite a long way. And we have now one home that we've run, La Maison Jérôme, has been run since the 80s. And we have another home that we're opening actually probably in a couple months called La Maison d'Amis, which is for 4 women. And it's one of the province's new small options homes. It's kind of the way that they're now wanting to see housing for people with disabilities, is rather than have big institutions, have smaller homes that have more of a home-like environment and shared just among 4 people. So we're also getting into that area. We're also pursuing cooperative housing, not just for people with disabilities, but for the community. There's a real lack of housing in Clare and at every income level. And what the model shows is that mixed income is the best housing model to have. So we don't want housing just for people with disabilities. We want housing that can be mixed and more inclusive of the community. So that's something we're also pursuing and would be interested in discussing with you. Just to talk a little bit about our day program. Basically, we're moving away from having kind of a sheltered experience. So back in the day, sheltered workshops were the thing, where basically people with disabilities gained work experience only inside the center. basically making money for the organization to support itself. But times have changed. And so really where our field is going is more toward community employment. So our day program is increasingly focused on bringing people out of the facility, out of the center and into the community and supporting them in jobs. So we went from having 0 people employed 4 years ago. Now we have 22 out of 30 people employed in our community. So we've been very successful with community employment. Again, something we would be wanting to share. We had a conference at St. Anne on community employment as well, where we brought inclusive employers together with other employers, and we've done some video work on it and created a film. So there's lots of things we've experienced going through that process. So now really our focus is community employment, but we also offer applied literacy and numeracy. We have recreation programs. Normally, prior to COVID, we'd have, go to the pool at St. Anne, the gym. We'd go to the beach, go on outings. We'd also do a lot of work around self-advocacy and leadership is our main focus with the people that we serve. So really helping them to become leaders in the organization. We have our first client now on our board of administrative board. And we have a board of workers that have their own workers' council. And so they work to advise the board and the staff on things they want to see at the center. So we really put self-advocacy at the forefront of what we do. These are just some pictures of our program. We've had some good support from also the local community health board. We did an inclusion immersion for youth where the youth got to spend time with our folks, which was wonderful. That's at the bottom right hand. We have the sewing group, which is great. A lot of community employment. Camosi Foods, University of St. Anne have been 2 of our main inclusive employers. La Bugine, we have CSIP now as an inclusive employer as well. So, and they actually sought us out after seeing our film. So that was really exciting to see it spreading in Clare. Our residential programs, this is at the bottom right, bottom left, there's a picture of what our new house is going to look like in Meteghan for these 4 women. But right now we operate the 9-bed home in Church Point, licensed home. And again, we have this new 4-bed one that's opening up called Maison Denis. This is Fancy Nancy Cleaning Services. We also help self-advocates start their own businesses as well. And Nancy is our first success story. And when you can't find employment for someone, you can always start your own business. So she is an amazing cleaner. So she had her own business called Fancy Nancy's, and she's an inspiration and organization. So our new vision, this is new to our strategic plan of 2020. Our new vision is to inspire confidence and ensure inclusion. Our mission is kind of twofold. We foster and promote accessible and responsive living, working, and learning opportunities in service of adults with disabilities in the community of Clare, empowering self-advocates in achieving their individual potential for full community living. Essentially, we do serve a little bit outside the area of Clare. We do sometimes end up serving people in Weymouth a little bit because we do have a lot of people from Clare that live in Weymouth or have to live in that area. So, so we do go a bit outside that, but mostly just operating in Clare. Our values are respect, culture, equity, moral courage, self-direction, learning together, community support, and creativity. Learning together is really important because we believe that our staff are allies. They aren't bosses. They aren't meant to it's not a top-down approach. Basically, they're allies in supporting the folks that come to us, and their main goal is to support their meaningful engagement in everything that we do. And this is what we mean by active support. So this is something that's kind of forefront in our field, kind of at the leading edge, which is active support, which was developed mainly in Australia and New Zealand. But it's actually the model of support or care used to be very much just taking care of people, making sure, you know, that they were happy, and that's wonderful. But we have a different model of support now, which is really to make sure that they're engaged, no matter what their level of support is. So we focus not on success being a completion of the task, but how much were the people that we support involved in that task in a meaningful way, not in a token way, but actually involved. And that's why creativity is important. So we really train our staff to be very creative minded and come up with ways that they can achieve this. And we do believe in the dignity of risk, and we believe in people. Everyone learns best when they can learn to do it themselves and make mistakes. And so we advocate a lot for people with disabilities having opportunities to make mistakes, which is sometimes a challenge because people want to protect them and they want, you know, they're vulnerable, but they also need opportunities to make mistakes and grow from those lessons. So that's just a very brief presentation on who we are, and I just want to open it up to questions. And again, it was great to meet you all. Thank you very much for allowing me to present here. We're just very open to working with you and building connections between our communities. And I think we have opportunities to do so if you're open to that. I'm gonna stop sharing now. Thank you.
Okay, great presentation for sure. Any questions? Anybody have any questions or comments? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. Not a question, but I am familiar with La Maison Jerome, and it's a great what you people are doing up there. I've been into the home a few times on different occasions, and I'm from the Pubnico area, and I know some of the clients in there, and it's top notch what you people are doing up there for your clients and with your clients.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? Where does the funding come for all this, like your building and whatever? I mean, it's
great question. Yeah, so our two programs are funded differently. The day program, we have agreement with, it's every 3 years it's renewed with the Department of Community Services to run the day program. And the funding for that essentially mainly just covers the staff portion. So we have social enterprises we do have to raise some of our own revenues. And I do a lot of grant and proposal writing as well. The residential side, however, is funded fully. So we get a per diem for every person that we have there. And that per diem covers all our operating costs. And that again is like a multi-year agreement that keeps renewing. The small options home was a little bit different because we were part of a government pilot project for that. And that came about, and I don't want to discourage you if you are interested in housing for people, but that took about 10 years to advocate for that. Housing is a very slow, I've learned, is a slow process. And so you need to kind of get on it and keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But a group of parents got together and they advocated for this home to be built. And so yeah, it took a good decade to bring it to fruition.
anybody else? Okay, CEO Muse.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. Do you have is your organization associated with other local organizations that do similar work? And how does that like work? Is it just that you're, you know, working as a team, or is it like what associations would you have?
For sure. Well, great question too. Yeah. So there's two organizations for groups like us. So there's one called Directions Council of Nova Scotia, which is a wonderful group. They represent, I think, about 30 of our day programs across the province. And so we sit on a board with forgive me, I'm trying to think of the name of the Yarmouth, Kay Nickerson, sorry. Yakro, who's I think interested in joining now as well. You know, we have across the province, we sit on a board with these folks as well. So that's actually really valuable. We do a lot of work collectively. We actually have a collective social enterprise that provides in-home non-medical support for seniors. So the government subsidizes this to pay full wages to the people we support to provide these supports for seniors, and they just pay what they can, which is a wonderful program. So we do things collectively with these other groups through directions. There's also something called the NSRAA, which is the residential equivalent of directions. So that's an organization which the residential providers are all sitting on. I haven't personally done as much with them, but that's the same idea, that we can work collectively to advocate with government for things that we need, or to work on various issues and benefit from best practices among us. So.
Okay. Anybody else? Not seeing anybody. Okay, well, thank you very much, Carolyn, for the presentation. I think it's a great thing that you guys are doing there. And like I said, very, very interesting presentation, and wish you all the best for sure in what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
It's great. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Well, if you have similar interest in developing similar programs in Argyle, please reach out to me. I'm always here, and a pleasure to get to know you. Thank you for having me.
For sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay, the next is the adoption of minutes. We have the regular council minutes of December the 8th. We need if there's any errors or omissions. If not, motion to accept, to approve. Moved by Councillor Albright, seconded by Councillor Digdon. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. And we have the special council meeting minutes of December the 29th. Need a motion for that one. Moved by Councillor Bork and seconded by Councillor Sonia. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded, carried. Business arising, the TNR. Where do we go with this? This is more just of an explanation of what they do. I didn't see any kind of request or anything from us. Now, this was brought up at one time by Councillor D'Entremont, and he's not with us right now. So there's no decision or anything that we need to do on this, is there?
Warden Muse, there hasn't been an official request received by staff. I think that the issue was raised by Councillor D'Entremont as there is a community issue associated with this. We just don't have at this time a request to provide you or to give you advice on in any way.
Right. Yeah. The next item is, where am I here? Okay, funding request from Village Historique Acadien. So they're looking for $5,000, and they want to do a study. And the study is to I guess it's an amalgamate or to join up together with the Historique the Musée de Pamlico and the village. So they want to do a study on that, and apparently they're short on the amount that it's going to cost, and they're looking for $5,000. So this is not something, I mean, we're not in our grant period right now, so I don't know what the wishes is from council, and maybe I see Councillor Bork has her hand up. Did you want to explain more, CL, before we go to questions or comments?
I would prefer, Warden, to have councillors speak on the matter.
Okay, good enough. So, Councillor Bork.
You were saying that they want to go with the village and the Société Historique Acadien. I think it's with the library as well. They want to affiliate, if I'm reading right. Is that correct?
Through you, Warden, what the library situation is a little premature. They're not entirely sure what that's going to look like just yet. But what we do know, as council knows, is that council has determined that the musée location is one that they're interested in, and the musée has indicated they're also interested in the location. But what that looks like and is still unknown. So I think that right now what they're looking for is a consultant, which they have hired, and they have received provincial funding to support. There's just a little bit of leakage of the cost on the end of it. They don't require a full $5,000.
Okay.
It looks like the cost is going to be 20 to 21 plus HST, and I think it's the HST that's causing them a bit of an overage there. So yes, this letter, dated the 1st of December is for 5,000, but I believe they would require less than that, quite a bit less than that. And I think that number is in or around the $2,000 mark. It's actually, if it's 20,000 plus HST, that would give them a total cost of 23, but then half of the HST they would recover. So that would be $1,500.
Right.
I would also note that that I have offered to provide them in-kind accounting assistance if they need it, in order to take a look at what the potential financial savings would be on a merger. And I guess the timing of Councillor D'Entremont's entrance is timely.
Councillor Diggen.
Yeah, yes, I was actually up to the musée today, and I was talking with them up there, talking to the president of the musée. I want to know, I guess, from our CAO, if this is something like I'd be willing to make a motion to give to see about the two groups, and they both do a lot of towards the Acadian culture and that down this end of the province, but at the same time, I don't want it to be one group that we wouldn't do for another group. So I want to be fair to everyone.
You were really breaking up there. I don't know if everybody else had the same problem. I had a hard time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this any better here?
I hear you right now. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll try it again, I guess. I was actually into the musée today, and I was talking to the people in there at the musée today. I would be willing to make a motion that we give them $2,000 to help them out in their project. But at the same time, I'd like to go through our CAO to see if we have that money and if it's something that we can do. Like this is for the preserving hopefully to help preserve the culture of the Acadian communities down this end of the province. But at the same time, I wouldn't want it to be seen as we can give to one group and we can't give to another group. So I'd like to hear from our CAO to see if this is something that we can afford and if it's possible to give that money out.
That was better.
Thank you.
Through Warden, I would say that yes, the quick answer to your question, can you afford it? Yes. The current year surplus will certainly be able to absorb that kind of an investment. So this is a very unique request. It's not every day that you could have two organizations seeking to be one to try to better the future of both of their organizations. They got a lot of work to do, and they've hired a third party to do that. This doesn't fall within the normal requests of grants to organizations. I did not, I purposely did not block the request in any way, even if it wasn't policy, because you can override a policy through your own decision. Not always something you want to do, but in this instance, it is a very unique situation where the investment that you're allowing them to make may actually save them quite a bit of money over time. That's a consideration. I don't know how much that is, in fact, but what the investment could result in is an amalgamated unit that is stronger and may actually be able to get additional funds from third parties, provincial and etc. Of course, the other side of the coin, the more negative side of the coin, is that there's no assurance after this work is done that they will actually amalgamate. So you do, as a municipality, as council, you're taking the same, well, they're taking a reputational risk. They're not taking a financial risk. So what you're basically doing is you're taking a relatively small amount of money comparatively to the project to give them an opportunity to be successful. But there is a chance that they won't actually result in an amalgamation. You should just be aware of that. But it is unique enough that I felt like it should not be blocked by staff. It really should be discussed by council as one of those unique opportunities to support, arguably one of the larger tourism attractions we have in the municipality.
Any other comments? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Digdon.
The only thing was, I was going to say that I'd make a motion that we give $2,000 towards the study of the consolidation process between the Musée des Acadiens de Pabnico and le village historique de Nouvelle-Écosse.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any other any comments or any more discussion? Councillor D'Entremont.
I'll just add that I've been in talks with Roland and Roger at the village, and they, explained to me what exactly was going on, like Councillor Digdon and Alain CEO Muse explained, and that they of course have questions and concerns about the merger, but I think the study will kind of merge things together and show what's good and bad and the pros and cons, and hopefully out of this will come something good. So but there's only one way to find out, so that's why I'm seconding the motion. So thank you.
Any other discussions? If none, ready for the question. All in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Contrary-minded? Carried. Okay. This is a notice period for the grants and organization. It's some changes and some additions to it. It's not to be decided on tonight, but it's definitely up there for discussion. If you've all had a chance, to look at it. There's a few things highlighted in yellow, which will be the changes or the additions. So it's open for discussion. Well, so I guess all we've changed is it covers basically what we had to go through this year as well. I mean, because of the how we handled the grants and that this year because of what was going on with the pandemic. Is that correct?
It is. It's trying to pull some of the operational decisions out of council's hands and put them in staff hands.
Right.
and let council make the governance decisions that it needs to make. So this change allows staff to say, well, in those situations where somebody applies for an event and it doesn't happen, that it gives us the opportunity to, ask the questions, determine what's going on, hold back payment until we can confirm that the event is going to occur, and ask for additional information. And at the very worst, in terms, I guess the very worst case scenario would be that the council would approve an amount, let's say for $1,500 for a festival, and it didn't occur, and we weren't getting information from the festival about it. So this policy allows for staff, or myself in particular, if we're unable to get that information in the unlikely event that we were unable to have information received from those that are organizing the event, that we could actually say, no, we're not going to give that money, even if council said we would. So that only exists in a pandemic or extraordinary item situation. Under no other circumstances would that ever occur. It's basically fiscal control, right? We just want to make sure that we're not actually dispersing money until we know that the event is actually going to happen. And again, I repeat, that would only be in a situation where you have like pandemic or extraordinary events. We would not apply that. We cannot apply that process in I guess what we would call normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, but normal year. So that's a summary of the changes. So it allows you to make the decisions that you need to make as a council from a governance perspective. Yes, we want money to go to X, Y, and Z, but how it gets dispersed in these extraordinary cases, we have discretion as staff. So you don't have to go through the things that you went through last year, basically.
Right. Yes. Any questions? Any comments? So what will happen with this is it's our notice period, and what we'll have is we could bring this to the committee of the whole at the end of the month to decide on this.
Correct.
Well, if there's no comments or questions on it, we'll continue. Next item is council reports. Anybody have any reports they would like to give out as councillors? Councillor Sonia. Unmute, please. There you go.
Happy New Year. Yeah, I'd like to start with the search for Zach and the regional response. I guess it's kind of a way of thanking everybody, who are watching this council. It was overwhelming. The response was more than just community. It was regional. It came from everywhere. It was unbelievable. It was great. And the actual search and rescue team gave me an opportunity to see these people work in person, and they do a great job. They were fantastic, actually, to see working. And of course, that included Clare and Barrington as well. I was able, through that whole weekend, to talk to Clare, because I know that they pretty much, according to a chap from Yarmouth Search and Rescue, said they got the best outfit this side of Halifax. They got great funding. I don't know if I want to discuss the funding they explained how everything worked in Clare. So it's a lot of information that I can bring in comparison with Yarmouth and Clare, I guess, that would benefit this organization here. I guess in all, it was just amazing to see all these people come together and the work they've done. On another topic, just for future references, I think Gordon Councillor Gordon will know, I had a letter from Kelly Cuttrow, and for basically it's a heads up for a future request, which I think will probably be with recreation. She has secured funding from the provincial government of $5,000 on an outdoor ice surface. And she will be asking council for money as well. This will be for next winter. And it will be on the Wedgeport school property, which is in Councillor Gordon's district. However, it'll encompass Upper Wedgeport and the surrounding area, which is my district. So Gordon has probably a little more to say about this. He's talked to Kelly as well. Anyhow, I don't know a whole lot about it yet. We need to get the details, but it sounds like a great project or great. It's all for kids, and I might add, it's not a skating rink. It's a nice surface, and will be done through the school, I think, or by the school. It'll be on the school property. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that. And I read today on the bulletin that the Comoes Hill Wharf was delayed due to the winter conditions. That's a little bit disappointing because I had told some people that it was coming soon. I guess I'll just have to change that, but that's okay. I guess for now, that's all.
Thank you. Councillor Boudreau.
Yeah, just to say a few words about what Ted was talking about. I talked to Kelly. I want to be on at their next meeting, but she says there's no rush because they can't move forward with this year, but we'll be at it next year. So we'll keep you guys posted.
Okay. Any other? Councillor Albright.
I just want to kind of talk a little bit too about search and rescue. I've been in contact with them quite a bit over the last few weeks, helping them out with their presentation that is now pretty much ready to go. So they're ready to present to councils, but my question, I guess, to this council is, does it make sense for them to present to all three councils at once, or should they do individual presentations? And I'm thinking if they presented to all three councils, we could hear everybody else's questions and comments rather than, secondhand. I'm thinking it would be good if they could do one presentation to all councillors, but I don't, what do other councillors think?
I think it's good because that way you can kind of hear how the others are thinking as well.
Right.
You know
That's
what I mean?
what I'm
Like
thinking
you get the same questions at the same time.
Right.
The
You
only
get the
thing
same
is,
information at the same time, right?
that's right. You get
When you make a
everything.
presentation, you have your PowerPoint, but your speaking points can vary,
change.
right? So if everybody heard at the same time. So I guess my question is now for CAO Muse. Should we make a motion to set a date for that and invite all three councils? What would be my next step, I guess?
Yeah, if this council wants a one presentation situation, you could do that by motion here, and we would start the ball rolling to find a day that would work for everybody. Can you hear me okay, Danny?
Yeah, now I can.
All right. I don't know if I was talking in. Okay. So, yeah, so that's all it would take. I mean, I guess, there's hopefully that works out for the three units at a time that is, fairly soon, because I think I'm sure that the ground search and rescue is looking to do something fairly soon.
Yeah. And they're ready.
So,
their presentation is ready to go.
Right. So, I mean, you can make the motion, but it's like sending an invitation to the wedding. You might not get an affirmative. You might get a negative. So, so we can do that. And then if we see that there's a willing group, then we'll certainly coordinate that on behalf of the region. Not a problem.
Okay, when do I make that motion?
That's, you could anytime. I don't know. Like, I mean, you're on the topic of
Reports.
reports.
Yeah.
I guess if it's up to the warden whether he wants to accept a motion now, I guess.
I think maybe we can listen to get through the reports and then come back to that. And my view would be that the first thing we've got to do is to find out if the other councils are willing to do that before, we can send invitations, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to at least let them know that we're looking at doing this and hear from them. And then what you can do is send it, a few dates, put a few dates, and then see what fits better for everybody. So just my comments,
Yeah.
Okay, so is that it for your report?
That's it. Yeah.
That's it?
Thank you.
You're done? Okay. Councillor Sonia, you want to comment on this one, on this topic?
Yeah, I
here?
just have a question. Do we know where the other councils stand? I'm pretty certain I talked to one of the councillors who was definitely for funding ground search and rescue, but I haven't talked to anybody on the Yarmouth municipality. So do we have any idea from anybody that the Yarmouth Council is in favor of supporting this or anything?
No, I don't know that we do, but I think that would be something that we would find out if we have the presentation together. We would know how they feel there. Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, just want to mention that on an email today that we're talking about the waste park, trying to set up a meeting, and the ground search and rescue come up with concerning tipping fees. But Councillor Gildayers has been to the facility. I'm reading, I got two screens here. Has been to the facility, and he said all will be advanced in financial support for them at our next committee of a whole meeting. So he's going to be pushing for financial support of the ground search and rescue based on what I see there today. And I'll just finish the rest of my report. There's only one more item.
Yeah, go ahead.
I attended my first waste park meeting not too long ago. I believe Ellen was there. The parks, I met the new members on the park committee, and I believe it's going to be a good working group. And I believe we bought a front end loader the last week, didn't we, Ellen? Unmute.
Yes, there was also a lot of talk about about Scotia Recycling and how they are dropping their product there as opposed to separating at their former Yarmouth facility and the financial implications of that.
Okay, I'll leave it at that because everybody knows how good my internet is. People are coming in and out and back and forth, but I'll hang with you. Talk to you later.
Councillor Digdon, did you have a report?
Thank you. Very small one this time around, I guess. I guess a lot of us attended virtually the Nova Scotia Emergency Management Brief to Council. And I also had a invitation from the MLA and her partner down in Richmond County to send down a video of our area and greetings from up here. And I did that. And it was for a New Year's levy that they were having, a virtual levy. And it was on a community television channel that they have down there in Richmond County. And of course, I'll be trying to sell this area. We had about 2 minutes of pictures of the Pubnicos and that. It was viewed 1,600 times. And I can assure you, it's just not me watching myself on the video 1,600 times. So it really went over well. We got a lot of good responses from a lot of people telling us how beautiful of an area we live in. And the only other thing I'd like to say, as far as the group, I honestly believe if we're going to help them, which I would be all in favor for, I think we should look at it over the long term instead of a short term, because they are a great group. They're going to be called out many, many times over the next years. And, you know, we all help our fire departments out and everything like that. And I think we should look at helping these people in the long term as well. That's just my opinion, but thank you. And that's all I have to report this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Bork.
Thank you, Warden. I attended my first library meeting. I think that's going to be quite interesting. It's more just a library all about books. It's about a lot of different things. It was a long meeting, but it was the first one. So it was quite mind, like there was a lot to sink in, but I think we're going to have some kind of a diversity meeting for the board in February. So anyway, I'm looking forward to that. We also met with the Whitecaps, and they're concerned with their with the pool at the Arm that's closed, so they have to go to Clare more often. They're having difficulty with that. They've lost members of their team, so we went through with that. So I think that will be coming up probably later on in future meetings, or I'm not quite sure where we're going to go with that. We're going to try to help them out, see what we can do. And I attended the last end of the Nova Scotia Emergency Management meeting. And I just have a little thing I like to add on my report is that in my district, we've been having a little bit of vandalism. So it's something that has to be addressed. I think we have to create a community watch or something like that. We have signs that are being torn down, tires are being slashed, windshields are being busted. Something has to be done. So gonna have to look into see what we can do, if we can have a community watch or something like that. Thank you.
Okay. Going back to the swim team, I received a letter, and I think Xeo, you got the same letter. And I think they're planning on trying to get a meeting with all three councils as well. I'm not sure if that I don't have a letter in front of me here, but it was just to thank the council for allowing them to come and talk to us, and thought that it was a good meeting that we had. So okay, Councillor Sret.
Yes, I just a comment for tonight. Due to the tragedy that's happened in Morris Island, I just like to send my condolences out to both the families. I will not name tonight because of notice of next of kin. I certainly would like to say, add on to Councillor Saulnier's comments and the rest of my fellow councillors about right now we've got helicopters over my house, searching. We've got the Argus over, and also ground search and rescue notified us that they want to use the Clip Social des Îles as a post to use our bathrooms and some of the facility as they did in Clement. And, of course, there's a whole bunch out there cleaning up the hall tonight because there's construction for a handicap bathroom and that inside. So they're bunch of people out there cleaning, and I understand that, you know, by tomorrow morning at 7, they'll be there. The group of ground searchers, and such a valuable bunch of people and dedicated, and certainly along with Ted, I can see even more. You never think of something like this happening in your community, but here we are, and you know, like you said, when this comes up, certainly my thumbs up will be there. So anyhow, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Surratt. And okay, so that's everybody except Councillor D'Entremont, and yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Warden Muse. Just wanted to mention the West Side Improvement Society and the overwhelming success and popularity of the Christmas tree at Dennis Point Wharf. I don't know how many text messages, Facebook messages I've got, people asking, you know, how long is it going to be open till, or how long are the lights going to be on? People from, you know, all the tri-counties, I'll say, from Shelburne County, Yarmouth County, and Digby County, made the trip to West Pamlico, to Lower West Pamlico, to Dennis Point to see the Christmas tree. This definitely was a big success, and I'm hoping, and I'm pretty sure that that'll go on next year. It's just a great event. Coming back to search and rescue, I think I share the same sentiment as everybody else. You know, I remember when I first got elected in council, and we talked about grassroots politics, you know, community politics, you know, and we talk about our fire departments. They're very important. And I feel the same way about ground search and rescue. Hopefully we can, you know, come to an understanding between all units and properly fund or support this organization, because vitally important. You know, something happened in Ted's district, something's happening in Geese district, something could happen in Calvin's district tomorrow. So, and everybody else's. So just, I think it's an important part of our community, and hopefully we can, you know, figure something out. So thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, that's every councillor. My report, Warden's report, is attached. I wasn't overly busy over the holidays for sure, but it's there if there's any questions or whatever. And then we go to staff report, and we'll turn that to our staff, which is CO Muse.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm going to try to focus on a couple of high-level things. I want to give a bit of an update on some of the capital projects that we have on the go. Just give you a verbal update. Most of it is in the staff report. Municipal building being the largest project that we're dealing with right now. Still on schedule. Daily communication on this, that, and the other thing. Lots of little details, but it's progressing well. We had a meeting with Gary in construction regarding the storage facility that we've moved. The project initially only contemplated a move and a settling of that building at that location, but we see an opportunity to do some work on it ourselves using our internal staff, but then there's also things that need to be done to that building and soon. So notably, access to the interior needs to be changed, windows changed, roof repaired, and the structure stabilized a bit more. So that will come to your attention most likely in the coming weeks and potentially month. Other project updates very quickly. East Pubnico, most of the remaining work has been tendered, will be tendered tomorrow. The tenders are out today. It'll be posted tomorrow. A lot of local work will be provided to electricians, etc. In the area. So we are on schedule for that project. It should be finished on or before March 31. And if you recall, that's the wells that had to be completely redone, along with all the equipment and monitoring equipment associated with that. So that will set up East Pubnico very well on the wells. And so the last piece of that will be the tank, which at the same time we're obtaining information on. We don't have funding secured for that particular project just yet, but it is the final major component of our East Pubnico water utility. So that's positive. The West Pubnico dewatering equipment will be delivered and installed in the next probably 12 to 14 weeks. With COVID, the weeks may be wrong, but we are well underway. Trident is the company that will be supplying and installing the dewatering equipment. So that is set to happen in or around the month of March as well. So that should be installed and completed in and around that time. As we get closer, I'll have a better idea of timing. The Wedgeport sewer project had COVID delays. It also had some participation delays due to the fact that we needed to get to a certain amount of people signed up, and we had some challenges. Those challenges are, for the most part, behind us. But at the same time, we had COVID restrictions. Our engineers are from Halifax, and there were some complications. They couldn't come in because of the travel restrictions and other reasons. So we didn't expect that project to be significantly done this fiscal. We noted that once COVID hit, we knew that project would be one that would be delayed. So the funding is still good, and we're still okay to do that project. Very quickly, request for expression of interest was posted for affordable housing for the Tusket location. That has been posted. I haven't received any response to that yet. It's too early. The deadline is February, I believe it's February 12th. That date could be wrong, but it may be extended depending on interest. The Mariner Center expansion committees are starting to meet again. We're getting rolling in that after a Christmas meeting situation, and there is an item on the agenda for your decision later on regarding membership. I engaged with, I did some work with Glendon Ring, and I think it was mentioned earlier, on solid waste, doing financial analysis on the impact of Scotia Recycling's change of contract from separating locally to having their product delivered to our facility and then shipped to their separation facility in the valley. So basically a transfer station. And so we received a revenue for that and have associated expenses. So I was asked to analyze that, and I've done that for that committee. Just a couple of other quick updates. Eelbrook Fire, we actively looked for funding when we saw that there was a Bridgetown community hall that received funding, a community hall with big fire doors on it. So very similar to the Eelbrook project. So we were a little disappointed to see that. And I say we, I mean the MLA contacted us as well as the leaders of the Eelbrook Fire Department, and obviously the councillors that are directly involved there as well. Quite disappointed because we sought funding multiple times on this one and asked if there were any particular projects that would fit the bill. This was done by our MP, it was done by our MLA, it was done by a municipality. And the answer was always negative, negative, negative. And then the funding was announced under what's called rural and northern funding under what's called ICIP. So that funding was secured for a Bridgetown project that is extremely identical to the Eelbrook project. So it looks like the Eelbrook project will be on its own because when we investigated the funding opportunity for that fund, we were told that there's no more money in that fund. So while there may have been an opening, we don't have it anymore. So I think the Eelbrook Fire has a decision to make whether or not they're going to figure out whether there'd be other funding models that could fit their project, or go out to market and decide that there was no funding support for their project, and obviously would be paid for by partially us and mostly the area rate that has been set. I'll stop there, and if there's any questions about any other particular projects, I'm happy to answer them as best I can, meaning if there are questions on other staff reports, I'll do my best to answer those, and if I can't answer them directly, we'll certainly get that answer for you.
Councillor Surratt.
Yes, CEO Muse, just a quick question been brought up just by a couple of people that stopped by to see me at the garage. They asked where the pond, where I'll call it a pond, that's probably the wrong word, at the new administration building, where the water collects before it goes, you know, well made. The people are, just a couple of people that asked, will we be putting the fencing, because it seems quite deep. I looked at it too, and when there's a lot of water there, will there be some kind of a fence? They thought it could be dangerous.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I would say quickly to those interested that what it looks like right now and what it will end up looking like are two different things. There is quite a bit more work that needs to be done there to make sure it first of all looks better, because there's a cosmetic issue there for sure. The intention of which is water management. So it has good intentions, but we're not done on the cosmetic side of things. A fence is a very good point. I can't answer you today whether or not we have a fence priced in there. I will have to investigate that and come back. My feeling is that it is not, which that doesn't mean that we won't put one. I'm just suggesting that as part of the contract, I don't recall a fence in that location. But we will definitely bring that to the attention of those that need to take a look at it. So it's a really good question and comment.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Sonia.
Thank you. I'll ask for you again. The delay in the Commonwealth Wharf is till next spring. Can you specify how early or late this might be? Just because people have been asking.
Sure. As you know, we tried to aggressively get on the Aberdeen schedule. So there was a small opening in late 2020 to get on schedule to do that project. And where they had initially committed that they could do it in that period of time, that door closed before the project could be done for us. So I would suspect as early as they can do it in the spring, they will. I know it's early on their list of projects. So I don't have a date because obviously that is weather dependent. I just want to assure you that as staff, we did what we could to try to make that project happen faster than what we anticipated. We hope to get in on that timing. The good news is the price will be maintained because they had committed and since had to change their schedule it's an understandable situation, but we are quite reliant on the subcontractor to finish that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay.
As soon as I know a date, Councillor Sonia, I will share it with Council.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Seeing none, thank you very much for the report. Next item for decision. First one is bylaw civic addressing signage, and this is the first reading. We will not be voting on it on the actual bylaw, but it's just for the first reading, but it's up for discussion. There's an attachment, there's two attachments with the explanation of what is in the works for this bylaw. So it's up for discussion. Anybody who has any questions or comments? Councillor Boudreau. Unmute.
I've got a first responder here in Wedgeport that's really pushing for the civic signage to be posted at every house. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents in there, just to let you know that it's extremely important for the first responders, and we shouldn't take this lightly. Thanks.
Yep. Anybody else? Councillor Digdon.
Thank you. What the Councillor Boudreau said, I can't say enough about that, Mr. Boudreau. I've been pushing civic signs for a long time down here. I've put a lot of them up for people. I intend to put a push on in the next week and a half to get as many more papers signed as I can for people requesting signs and polls. The only thing I'm a little leery on, and I can see where there's a cost, and by all means, the pole that we presently put these signs on, some people, let's say, it's made of a material that people tend to collect sometimes when they're driving by. And I'm just wondering if we could look at something there that might not be, I'd hate to end up charging the person or be part of a municipality that charges them $25 for their pole. All of a sudden somebody goes out on a little collection spree some weekend and rips off a bunch of these poles, and then they have to come back and spend another $25 to keep up with the bylaw. I guess I'm sort of directing that towards Mr. Muse, just if we could look at some other way or some other pole maybe, or a pole
Yes.
made of a different material.
Yes. So if you see the bylaw says that we will certainly pay for the sign itself, and that's intentional because we want it high quality. We want it to last. We've seen situations where we've bought a less, a little bit. We spent a little bit less money, and it didn't come out the same way. You see some of them now. They come back. They're like, look, it's faded. So we want them to last a little longer. So we want to make sure that we get them from the right supplier. The pole we're less fussy about. We're more fussy about where it's displayed, not on what it's displayed, as long as it's clear. So Councillor Digdon, certainly we can take a look at that as a modification of existing, or just, I think the bylaw actually refers to the fact that they don't have to get the metal sign, the metal pole from us, but it should resemble what that's intended to do. It's a good point to raise. And I just would like to note that all councillors today, this bylaw doesn't change the fact that you can encourage, just as Councillor Digdon has done, encourage some residents to put in an application and to get their civic numbering. That exists regardless of this bylaw. What this bylaw is intended to do is to kick in another notch. Whereas, like, we have already looked at one of our communities and said, these are the following civic numbers that are missing, and we will order those numbers and we will deliver them to the people that need a civic number. So that's where we're headed. Like, it's been an application basis, and we all know how that works. Like, it works very well until it doesn't. And then now, I think now we just have to kick it up a notch. So that's one of the reasons why we've done this bylaw. It also defines where it should be posted, etc.
Councillor Albright.
I just have a question, I guess, for CAO Muse. I've read through the bylaw and I think I know which number addresses it, but I'm not 100% sure. So I just want to be certain, because I think this will be the question that I get more than anything about this. If somebody has a sign indicating their civic number already near, let's say, their driveway, but it's not one of these blue signs, are they still required to get one of these blue signs as per this bylaw? And is that number 10?
All right. The question on the number, perhaps I'll ask our municipal clerk to take a look at whether it's number 10 or not. But I will answer the question as best I can. Is the quick answer is yes. They will be requiring the blue reflective. It doesn't mean they have to take off other signs. They can display, if their civic number is 32, they can display it in 85 different places. So what we want is clear from the road and visible at night. And those blue reflective are by far the best. Are they cosmetically pleasing? Not for everyone. Are they necessary for people to be found? 98% of the time, absolutely. So that's why the bylaw is insisting on that. And we're not asking people to eliminate their existing signage. They can have that as well.
Right. No, I just wanted to be sure in case, some people already have, I've been kind of keeping my eye open since we've talked about this. I've been going through my community and seeing who has signs, who doesn't have signs. And some people have signs, but not necessarily this blue reflective sign. So that was kind of, I could see that as a question coming forward. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? So what we need on this, we need a motion for the first reading.
We do. So
Yeah.
it's not to approve. It's to the motion of the first reading is to bring it to the public. So that will
Exactly.
trigger advertising in the local paper, and we will do that as well as advertise it in our social media outlets.
Right.
I've been particularly impressed with some of the ads that I will say the town of Yarmouth and especially how the information is far more easy to follow. It's more graphic. It's more pleasing to the eye. And I think we're going to, we're certainly going to move in that direction where people can have a visual representation of what we're trying to do here.
So can you have a motion, Councillor Boudreau? Make the motion?
I've got a question. Like if
Okay.
somebody doesn't abide by the rules here, what happens to people that say, no, I'm not gonna put a sign? What happens?
That through you, Warden, Councillor Boudreau, they would be violating provision of the bylaw and they're guilty of an offense punishable by fines. So they could be fined for not doing it. Yeah, so right now the bylaw states no less than 100 and not more than 500. Typically what happens is if it's multiple offenses, etc., there might be escalation, but I really don't think there'll be any issue, but you never can tell, which is why it's a bylaw.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councillor Diggins, is that a motion or a question?
Sorry, that would be a motion, Mr. Warden. And that for
Okay.
the civic addressing signage bylaw.
Okay. For the first reading, yes.
Yes.
Seconder on that? Councillor Bork? Any more discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary-minded? Carried. Next one is the Nakile partial tax exemption. We have to approve this every year. We have their taxes capped at 25,000, and they're requesting it to have it again in this fiscal year. And it's something that we've done now for a number of years to help them. The Department of Health and Wellness does not take that into consideration in their budget apparently. So we're doing this as a service to them and to help them with their budget as well. So is there a discussion or a motion? Move. Councillor Bork?
I'd like to make the motion.
Okay. Councillor Donaldson, seconder. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded? Carried. Speed radar advisory signs. I know the municipality of Yarmouth had a couple. apparently one of them got stolen at some point. I'm not sure when or what happened, but so I know we are having a lot of, I know I'm having some for sure, you know, complaints that people are speeding. If we did this, I guess, and reading through it, it's a policy that we would have to have of where do we, how do we handle these signs, and do we buy more, or do we buy one every time we need to put one somewhere? Anyway, this is open for discussion again. If anybody has any discussion on this or questions. Apparently they do work. Like they, you know, when you see that, it reminds you that you're going over the speed limit. Now, whether you slow down, I know when I'm in the city, they have them. And when I see that, the first thing you do is you got to slow down. So what's the, yeah, go ahead, Councillor Donaldson. Motion? Oh, okay.
I believe you went. Did you acknowledge me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, everybody's breaking up. Yeah, I couldn't
Okay.
tell. Just was wondering, like you see them from time to time in towns, but I've done a lot of driving and I haven't really noticed them in rural areas. Is there any way of knowing like how widespread they are in rural areas? Because I mean, we could use, if we started doing that, we could end up putting up 50 of them.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
don't
my
know.
only concern. Like if there's areas where there's problems, maybe it's more of an RCMP issue than us trying to police the speed zones. I guess I'm caught in the middle on this one.
Yeah, it's certainly something that I don't feel it's our responsibility to do that, but we're the ones getting the complaints. I have contacted the RCMP on a couple of occasions where I get complaints of people saying that people were really driving fast in those areas. And what they suggested was that they would probably be more present in those areas to keep an eye on it. But then when I've spoken to the people afterwards, like let it go for a while, and spoken to the same people that made the complaints and said, well, do you see more presence there? And they said they haven't seen any changes at all in more RCMP presence in their village. Whether they've seen them or whether they were there and they haven't seen them or whatever, I'm not sure. But they didn't feel that, and people were still driving the same way. So
Yeah, I know people that would probably see how high they could get the number up.
You're right.
yeah. Oh,
There's not a lot of them, but I do know some.
yeah. Try. Oh, I got by with 5 over. Maybe I'll try 7.
No, they just want to see how far they could get it up.
Yeah.
Like
Councillor Woodrow.
It's just for my information, my personal information here. While I was in Alberta, they contract these people with a radar gun and a camera. So every time the speeder would go by, it would take a picture of their license plate. Why hasn't this been brought to like Nova Scotia? I'm just wondering, why hasn't this reached the eastern side of Canada here?
Hard to say.
It wasn't cops with radar guns. It was just like it was contracted out to a company, and yeah, they'd have a radar gun and a camera, and they'd be set up on the side of the street and watching the cars go by. And if you were over speeding, it would take a picture of your plate, and then you get a letter in the mail. You owe $200 because you were caught speeding. I'm just curious why this hasn't reached. Nova Scotia.
Yeah, that would probably have to be something that we discuss with the RCMP. That would definitely fall under their
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
Councillor Saunier.
To Gordon's point, I think, I'm not sure about this, but I think that was defeated in court. I think because it was said that no private citizen can benefit from a government violation or something like that. I'm not sure the wording, but I think it was defeated in court. It may still be standing, Gordon, but I'm not sure. But I was told that at the very least.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Ted. I know it worked when I was there.
I was there too at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Councillor Surratt.
Just a point to what you said, Mr. Warden. We had a situation, we've got a situation still ongoing in the road that Alain, our CAO, lives in. What happens is on the Bula Road, people who take the Bula Road, anybody following them will, instead of taking the Bula Road because these people are driving slow, what they'll do, they'll take where the old store in Sluice Point was. They'll take that round, put it to the boards to beat them, to beat the people that took the Bula Road. So when they get to the edge, they'll have beat them, so they don't have to be behind. So about 3 years ago, I got a hold of the RCMP, and there was a request that had come to the municipal council if we had any issues or problem to let the RCMP know. So I sent out a notice to the RCMP about this. And you know what? Like everybody else, they never showed their face. People are still racing like hell around there. And so if we had a sign like that is proposed here, you know what? I'm not saying it's wrong. I know one thing, calling the RCMP is like calling the FO. They never come around. That's it.
Anybody else? Councillor D'Entremont.
Councillor Surratt, did you say DFO or UFO?
They're probably the same.
Okay. But coming back to the signs, I know myself personally, there's two signs of those signs that I remember. One, when you're coming into the town of Kentville, and I always slow down when I see it. And one, when you're coming from, let's say, the Micmac Mall, going towards the bridge, coming down that hill,
yeah.
I always see that sign, and I always slow down. So I think they're effective. Calling the RCMP, I mean, the RCMP, they only have so many resources. And for them to, you call them and they might, their presence for a few days, but, they've got other places to be too, right? So I don't even think it's fair to, think that they're gonna, slow people down unless they're there 24/7, which is not gonna happen. So when it comes to a sign, one of those speed signs, I think they would be effective. How many can we afford in the municipality? That's another question. But I'd like to see a pilot project, so maybe we can try one and see how it works. Thank you.
Okay, so Al, there's a suggested motion here. Says should council wish to engage in the service improvement, the following motion suggested move that the CAO purchase one speed radar sign and develop policy for its use for council's approval. Or alternatively, it says move that CAO develop policy for consideration in the use of traffic speed radar sign for council consideration. Which one do we do first, if we do any of them? So, Councillor Surratt.
I'd like to move that the CAO purchase one speed radar sign and develop policy for its use for council's approval.
Councillor Bork, do we have a seconder first? Before we discuss it?
I'll second it, but I like to
Okay.
make a comment after.
And then you can, yeah, then we can discuss it. So Councillor Brooke, did you have comments? No, you just want to second it?
I want to second it. I'll second it. So then I want to make a comment after.
Okay. Well, if you have any comments, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So I agree with Councillor D'Entremont. I think we should just purchase one as a pilot project to see how it works, because and then we can make a policy, or if we're going to need some in other areas. I mean, we have a large area to cover. So I think a pilot project is the right way to go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And that's what I want just to say.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. Just wondering if it's something that we may be able to have insurance on, like for theft or vandalism or something like that. Like, I'd hate to see something happen to it the first week and us be out $4,000 or so, or $3,500.
I'm not sure if that's something possible or not. That would be the CAO's response.
It would fall within our insurability for related equipment. What I don't have an answer to right now is what the deductible might be on such an item.
Okay.
Deductible could be almost as expensive as the equipment itself. Again, you can actually, if you want to pay for it, you can buy a little bit more insurance to reduce your deductible on a particular item. So yeah, I mean, the quick answer is it is insurable. The only thing I can assure you is if it gets stolen, we'll know the speed at which it was stolen at. That's what I can assure you.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Saulnier.
Where would you decide, or how would you decide where to put it? Before you answer that, my thoughts go right away to a school zone.
If I may, Mr. Warden, I think that's the idea of the policy, right? So the policy has a very specific definition of where the municipality will authorize them. What I envision is that as soon as you put one up, no matter where you put it up, you're going to get requests for a second or third speed sign. Now, the advantage of these speed signs is that they can be taken down, they can be moved, right? You can have one and you can try it in a place for 3 months and see if it changes behavior, and then you go somewhere else. Then of course, the behavior might change back to what was before, and then you bring it back. You can rotate those signs in theory, or sign, because the motion is for one. That's the importance of policy, because then you're essentially stating, that the speed has to be, XY in order for it to be considered. It has to be a slower zone, for instance. That would be part of the policy that you will develop. So it's a good question. It's a question that really ought to be asked again as the policy is drafted. Staff will do our best to draft the policy in what we think is the best way from an administrative perspective, but you'll have a lot to add from a community perspective, because you'll insert your experience into the equation.
Councillor Donaldson.
Yeah, you answered one of my questions. I just wondered how easily they could be moved, but it sounds like it's not that big of a deal. My other question is, I know they probably don't take photographs, but do they record data on speeds, like over time, like how fast people went by them, or is it just somebody looks at it and then slows down? Or, I mean, is there any way you can check how this is performed over time?
Yes, there is a collection of data. I believe that I didn't have direct conversation with the gentleman, but it does collect a certain amount of data. I'm just trying to read the request for decision to see if there's additional information there. Our municipal clerk had the direct conversation and may have something to add here. I'm just reading as we go.
He didn't give me any more information other than the fact that it does collect data. Like we download the data onto whatever device we want.
It seems to me, thank you, Lori. It seems to me that the data that it collects is not just speed, but obviously how many vehicles, because it will collect that information as well. So you'll know, not only will you know how fast they were going, but how many went by, and that may inform you on whether you want to leave it there or whether you want to move it.
Yep, that's right. Any more questions? Councillor D'Entremont.
I guess I was just thinking the sign's up. I know when I go into Kentville, when I'm coming in, that I see the speed. Is it two directional or is it just one direction? Do we know that?
I would say it's one.
Okay.
I'm just guessing, but I think from the ones that I've seen is one.
Because I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking Dennis Point Road in front of Inshore and Captain's Choice, where people seem to want to speed up. It'd be nice to have it both ways, because as a friendly reminder, because people do drive probably over the speed limit, going both ways. So, thank you.
Okay.
To your question, Councillor D'Entremont, I believe you can purchase both.
Oh, okay.
One-sided and two-sided, but the prices that are included here may or may not reflect that. So we'd have to get, I mean, the motion is to buy one. I can get some more detail around two-sided versus one.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay.
Question
called for. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Next one is amend the Mariner Center Expansion Committee, and what that is about is we've had a recommendation from one of the groups that think that maybe we should add one more member per municipality, I guess. Now we have two, and they're saying that maybe we should have three. That is something that if we feel that it's probably not a bad idea to have a third, that if one can't make it at least, then you still have two voices at the table. Councillor Sonia, did you have your hand up to say? No, okay. Yeah, so if that's the case, then we would have to appoint one more member to the committee. Right now, it's the warden and deputy, and we can, if we so wish, we can appoint one more member from this council to sit on that committee. Councillor Digdon?
Just wondering if we know if the municipality of Yarmouth is going to appoint one more member as well, or if that's what they're looking at. That's one question I guess I have.
I'm pretty sure the town is looking at that. I haven't heard. I had an email from the mayor wanting to know if we had discussed it, and that was yesterday, and I told her we were going to discuss it now. And I think I saw another email from the warden of municipality of Yarmouth, and they were going to discuss it at one of their meetings. Now I don't know if that's today or if it was yesterday. I'm not sure. I haven't heard any more. I think maybe what we can do is, I mean, if it's not going to get passed by everybody, by all three, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. If one has three, then the other should have three. But we could at least say whether or not we agree with having a third or not. Councillor Albright.
The municipality of Yarmouth will be having a third as well.
They will have a third. Okay. And we know that Yarmouth will if we say as well. So, yes. Councillor Digdon.
Okay, I don't know if it's open for nominations or what, but I'd put Guy Surrette's name in if he's willing to accept it. And the only other thing, as far as the Mariner Center, if I may speak a second on it or whatever, I know it's a big project that we're looking at. At some point in time, I'd just like to see some figures, like what it's going to cost us up front, what it's going to cost us yearly afterwards, and that. Like, it's just a real big expense on our taxpayers. And at somewheres along the line, the taxes will have to go up according to our CAO to help pay for this expansion. So it's just, I'd like to get some of those figures before we get too far into it.
I think, to answer that, at this point, we don't even have a real plan of what's going to happen. So it's hard for us to get any kind of a monetary decision or figures at this point. But anyway, right now, we're still working with the firm to come up with something that can be built, and then we'll know what we're looking at for figures. So you nominated Guy. Guy, you were on there before, and I think it might not be, at least you're kind of you know what's been going on, so it would just be continuation of what you, because I don't think that we've had any meetings since you haven't been on. Okay, so I guess that's all we need. It's just we don't need a motion or anything. We just need to say that we've appointed someone as a third.
I think the motion made, it would be to because we have we have a
terms of reference.
So it would be to amend the terms of reference, approve an amendment of the terms of reference to add a third member, and that third member be Guy.
Okay.
Drought, and that we would endorse a third member from the two other parties. That way, you're saying it's not just us saying we would endorse their selection.
Yes.
So that would be my suggested motion.
If we can have a motion to that effect, and that, Glenn, you're making that motion. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by two of you. I'll pick one. Council Board. If there's no more discussion, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. The next one is award of tender for the trailer sale. As you know, we had advertised to see. We had put out a tender there for the what's going to be a surplus trailer. We've had 2 bids, and there's a recommendation here to award the tender. So the recommendations that we recommend sale to Garen Construction at 19,700 plus HST, with the timing of the sale and transfer to be arranged between CAO and the buyer, because right now it's being used on the project. So
correct. There's an error on the, it should say 19,770. I realize it's a $70 difference, but
770. Okay.
Their actual bid 19,770.
Yeah.
So just a typo on my part.
Okay. So we need a motion. Moved by Councillor Surrett, seconded by Councillor D'Entremont. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Next one, strategic plan and priorities. There's 2 attachments, and these are the priorities that we have for 2020. That's the ones we have for 2020, right? The airport downsizing. I guess it's right sizing is the right word, but that's what we want to do. There.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we see that. So maybe you can go over it yourself there. You've got the... Are
you still able to see it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can quickly, I did it presentation style. I wasn't intending on doing the presentation, but then I thought, hey, there's some splashy blue colors on it, so maybe we should show it. Because now everybody who's watching can see this. So I'm gonna really, I won't take too long, Council. Thank you, Warden. I just, essentially what all of these slides are intending to do is just to identify the importance of strategy and how it's time for us to refresh our strategic plan and priorities. In light of COVID, when you have significant change like that, it does open your idea around what exactly a strategic plan might look like. A lot of organizations are moving away from a strategic plan in its traditional sense and more towards strategic priorities. And with the thought that we have to be a little bit more flexible because the world is changing pretty fast and we don't want to lock ourselves in necessarily thinking that nothing's going to change in 5 years, because what we know is it changes all the time. So, you know, why is this being presented to you now? Well, it's a new council and we have accomplished many of the objectives that we said we were going to do in the original strategic plan. What we are looking for is, as staff, or at least as your staff, this would be my responsibility to lead this through, but obviously the plan is yours. And so what we're essentially saying is, you know, the importance of strategy is that it is informed. It's informed by research and analysis and community input, staff input. And so what's important essentially is the process itself. So what I'm asking council to consider today is, you know, not to approve a strategic plan, but actually to give your CAO permission to move through a process. Okay, so the process involves research, which should be done essentially anyway. We should be understanding our community, our demographics, et cetera, but it's a bit more intentional, where we're identifying specific opportunities we think might be important for you and researching them to ensure that we understand them. On this slide, I put measure twice, cut once. So the strategic process itself is one, it is an actual process. And it never actually, you go through a process, but the process never stops. There's always a refresh and recheck into the priorities that you've established. So you, as a council, have been accustomed to doing a priority setting workshop, which is a bit more short term. So you've had the opportunity to, I guess, practice or cut your teeth on a process, a strategic or priority setting process. This is just that at another scale. It's a little bit more involved, and it would involve the community input as well. So so this next slide is an example of a typical traditional strategic plan process. And if we were anywhere on that scale, we would be at the gather facts arrow. Obviously, once you gather basic information, you kind of take a look at your community, and many of you have been involved with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats exercise. We have already done that 5 or so more, probably more like 6 years ago. We've already done that, so it would be a modification of that. We would take a look at whether some of that was still true, update it, modify it, because again, much has changed in 6 years. And then we start to develop a plan moving forward. So the first step is the gathering facts step. And I just wanted to take a minute to show you an example of what that looks like. Some of that is just, let's look outside, take a look at the funding opportunities, that you know, where is the strategic mindset of our federal and provincial funders, and how does that line up to what we're thinking of doing in our own community, like things like renewable energy as an example. You know, collection of prior year priorities, collection of all the other documents that we have done in the past. Have we finished what we said we were going to finish? How do we summarize all that? Looking at financial analysis, that's absolutely the fun part that I know you guys can't wait to see, is the historical multi-year, you know, financial analysis. What has happened over the past 5 years and what is expecting to happen? So that's an example of the first step. what we need now is we need for council's endorsement of this work. Again, the work won't be, it won't take weeks, it will take months. And what I would do is develop a comprehensive process for you moving forward, which will include how you get engaged as a council. You can imagine there'll be some time, time where we sit for long periods of time to have sessions, whether they're led by a third party or not. I would suggest that they should be. We did have that in the past, and then develop a full process and timeline. We do this work as staff. We do look at things strategically, but to take a look at it in a broader sense, to kind of like stop and breathe is really what this is about. It's about, let's take a moment, stop and breathe, take a look at our community. What is our community? What do our residents say they want? What services are we delivering that we should continue? Which ones might be new? Which ones should we phase out? There's all sorts of those kinds of questions we need to go through. So the suggested motion of council is right in the presentation. If you're so inclined, if you're so interested, the motion would be to have me initiate the strategic priorities process on behalf of council and present the process and steps to January committee of the whole. So what would happen is, if you're interested in going down this road, this motion would confirm that, and then you're basically putting me on a clock to say, in January committee of the whole, present your process. Exactly what does this mean? And so I would propose that I would bring that to your January committee of the whole. That would be the end of the slideshow. It's I will stop sharing it now if I can. Stop share, look at that. So then that's basically a very quick version of that presentation. The other document that Warden Muse referred to is an example of the priority setting that you did in 2019.
All right. Any questions, Councillor Surratt?
Yes, I would like to commend our CAO for bringing this up. Alain, you have no idea how much I back this up. I think we need this. It brings us together. It gets our strategic plan. I certainly congratulate you for bringing this up. Much needed. And I know sometimes I can be one that may say, oh my God, we have to be this and that. But you know what? This is so important in my opinion. Let's go for it. I hope we're all on board. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Digdon.
I'd be willing to make the motion. The only thing I would like to, and maybe I'm going against council here, I don't know, and I hope not, but I'd like to move that the CAO initiate a strategic priorities process on behalf of council and the municipality, and present the process and steps to council at our January committee of the whole meeting for discussion. If that would be all right.
Instead, remove endorsement to discussion.
Instead of endorsement, and put discussion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
So it's moved and seconded with the wording changed with a discussion instead of endorsement. Any comments or questions? Councillor D'Entremont.
I totally agree. I guess if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I think that's a good strategy.
Okay. Anybody else? Seeing none, ready for the question. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried.
Warden.
Okay, next is
Warden
correspondence. Yep, somebody.
Sorry. I'm
Go
just
ahead.
wondering if I can make that motion about getting the three councils together for the ground.
Oh,
search.
there you go. Yes, we didn't continue.
I
with
just
that. Sure.
wanted
Go ahead.
to kind of wait until we were at a point where it made sense.
Yes.
So I wrote I'd like to make a motion that we invite the other two councils to listen to a presentation from Ground Search and Rescue regarding their funding needs.
That's seconded by Councillor Surratt. Any discussion, any questions? And seeing none, all in favor signify by raising your hand. Contrary minded, carried. Sorry about that, Councillor
okay.
Albright. I
Thank you.
I didn't write it down, so. Excuse me. Okay, now we're correspondence. We have thank you notes going out to a number of organizations and people that were really there helping out during the drought. And I think that's a great idea. There was a list of people where these letters would be sent. Letter from Minister of Environment, and that came through our MLA, and it had to do with the control of mosquitoes. I don't know that they think it's the right thing to do or not, or whether it can be done. The CEO from REN, so it's a report from the CEO. Mariner Center audited statements is attached. And the Western Counties Region Library minutes. That was minutes, that was the last meeting that I attended as well. We have no financial requests. Any agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by any councillor? Councillor Surratt.
Yes, I'd like to propose or make a notice of motion that staff, probably Public Works, bring up in the next, I know there's a lot on the go for Public Works on that, but in the next, I would say next 4 months, to bring out a price to have sidewalks from the church in Surratt Island to the community hall in Club Social des Îles, a price on what it would cost to put a sidewalk there, gravel being the cheaper, but if it was cement, both prices, and then a pricing on a sidewalk from a community hall in the Mirrors Hill to the church in the Mirrors Hill. If we could get that staff to look at that, get some kind of pricing in the next 3 or 4 months and bring some numbers and some stuff, then we could have a discussion at the council table. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll deal with that at the next meeting as a motion. Is that it? Is that what you're suggesting, or?
Okay, I wasn't sure, Danny, where I should go. Alain, should I just wait till you bring the information as your staff, and then I would bring that as a discussion piece at a meeting if it's feasible, if council is in favor, because my next move would be, I guess, once we get some figures, to bring it up to council and, possibly bring it to a motion, but at least have some numbers ready for whenever council would agree to it or give us some numbers. That was the plan.
But at this point, it's just to get some figures. You're asking staff to get some quotes or figures on what it would cost to do sidewalks on those 2 locations. That's basically
right. And then bring it to council. Yeah, and then bring it to council for discussion and a possible motion to pass. Yes.
Okay. CAO, did you have any comments on that, or
yes.
Just?
I think that I think what Councillor Surratt is asking is that at the next meeting that council consider that question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that yes. I would have direction from the entire council around yes. that. So I think that's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Obviously, if council agreed that we would get pricing, of some sort, wherever that discussion brings, then at that point we would have very direct instructions from the council, right? And the reason why I say it that way is because this is a notice of motion and not a motion to.
It's not a motion, that's right.
So it should be that what this would trigger, and I think this is what Councillor Surratt's intention is to trigger the conversation, which is exactly what should happen at the council level first.
Yes.
Not a problem. So the only thing that I would say about that is there's nothing stopping council from having that debate and discussion. In fact, it's been encouraged for many years, and I'm not going to get into the political consequences of that at all. I will only say that there are no sidewalks on our 5-year capital investment plan right now. So if it was council's decision, and maybe we get there, Councillor Surratt and others in the strategic priority session, maybe we say in that session that some things are more important than others and some things come off and some things come on. That could be part of that process as well. I'm not going to presume that. But what staff could, if council was so inclined, I think that I just want to make sure that there's an understanding that it would first be order of magnitude pricing. It would not be a detailed quote. It would be, what does this look like? Gravel, what does this look like in all its options, and what is the price range of those types of works? And taking into account where you might consider putting it, that might change the order of magnitude, right? So I'm just flagging that getting a price may not be very. It would be order of magnitude. It would not be an accurate price because that would take a lot longer than the time frame that would have been suggested.
So at this point, all we're saying is this is going to be discussed at the next meeting.
That would be my interpretation.
That's basically all we need from this meeting here. It's
correct.
It's notice that we are going to be discussing that at the next meeting.
So we as staff will be putting that on the agenda at next meeting for your discussion.
Exactly.
We won't have any of the, we may have some information on it, but we won't have a lot as staff.
No, exactly.
So it is to initiate the discussion.
Okay.
Is that's my interpretation as staff, but it's your notice of motion, Councillor.
Exactly.
Yes, Danny, thank you so much, and Ella, for clarifying that. That's the process. That's the way.
That's the process. Right
Thank
now,
you so
what we're
much.
doing is our meeting is basically coming to an end, and we're saying, okay, so anything that you want to bring up at the next meeting, basically, right?
Thank you.
Councillor Sonia, did you have a notice of motion?
Well, in light of what Councillor Surratt just said, meaning no respect to D. Surratt, Plymouth, a small committee made a small presentation to council before I was councillor on that exact same matter. They been wanting a sidewalk in Plymouth for well over 20-25 years now, from the school to the Newell Road. So I would don't like complicating things, but I guess I'm compelled to bring this up, that I would like to put that in discussion as well, because for the it's been a long time they've been asking for sidewalks here in Plymouth, and again we made this presentation.
So I guess what we're saying is in the next meeting we'll be discussing sidewalks and that, we're not we're not right now in the process of discussing what we should be doing. We're just saying that this is something that will be on the next agenda.
I understand. I just want to make you guys aware that I would be talking about Plymouth as well.
Okay, good enough. Okay, so was there any questions from the public or from our audience? There's nothing come through. And if not, we have an in-camera topic, so we need a motion to go into camera. Oh, Councillor Sonia, what did you have?
I just had, it's not a question, it's a, before we move on, I was fortunate enough with this COVID virus that the first couple of meetings we had, or I had with council, were live. and therefore I got to meet the whole council and get to know you personally a bit at the very least. However, since then, what committees I serve on are all virtual, and I find it, for myself anyhow, very difficult to get in touch. I was with Wedgeport with Guy, and I see how these people know each other, and I know no one except for Guy and a few. So it's quite difficult to begin a committee being on Zoom. And I'm wondering if there's any way that you or these committees could have at the very least one live meeting under the protection of mask or distancing or whatever, so that a new council like myself could get to meet everybody and know what's going on a little better. That's all.
Yeah. It's just that with restrictions, some of these committees have more than 10 people. And really, we're not really allowed to have that many people at in one location. If I'm not mistaken, CEO, I'm pretty sure that we're restricted on under those conditions.
We're restricted at sub 10 and also socially distanced sub 10, which is difficult for us to do in this current facility. Councillor Sonia's point is well taken.
Yes.
We can do is possibly reach out to those that are organizing, especially these inter-regional meetings that you're meeting people for the first time. There's other ways to meet. I think we're always thinking about our own four walls. The Manor Center has a COVID-friendly location. The Hebrew Rec Center has a COVID-friendly area as well. So if we had sub 10, we could easily get socially distanced in those two facilities. So perhaps to Ted's point, we'll reach out to the organizers of the meetings and try to insist on live where we.
It doesn't have to be every meeting. It's just to kind of break it in. You know what I'm saying?
I completely agree, and probably earlier the better, because you're engaging in committee groups for the first time, and the sooner you get to know people that way, the better, I would assume.
Right.
All right. We will take that on as a staff to reach out to the regional committee.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we need a motion to go in camera.
Motion to go in camera.
Seconder.